Hello, Michael Tingsa here. Coming Back Stronger is a special edition podcast series focusing on the way food and drinks businesses are bouncing back as the world slowly starts to reopen from COVID-19. We'll especially be sharing great stories on how progressive leaders are bouncing back from the pandemic by utilizing the power of technology and delivery. By listening into these conversations in the coming period, you'll be able to pick up some great stories, insights and facts, as well as best practices from industry experts, independent operators to national chains, who all are setting a new standard for how to operate in the new normal. Vita Mojo and Hospitality Maverick joined forces on this project due to we have a shared belief on how tech plays a massive role in building companies that's good for people, communities and the planet. In this episode, we talk with Joshua Jarvis, the co-founder of Wingshack Co., a QSR concept from London. We talked about the pandemic and how it's impacted them and how they quickly transform into delivery and click and collect with great success. Joshua gives some great advice on how to adjust and simplify your menu and focus on kitchen capacity as you're preparing for the new normal. He also talks about the importance of developing a number of new revenue streams while you have the time. There's also some great advice from Joshua on how to keep yourself in the right mindset and energy levels as a business owner in all this madness. Tune in and enjoy. We are now a good way through June. We are approaching the magical dates of hopefully soon we know when we're all going to be opening. And for this episode, I would call it a very progressive operator with me, and it's Josh from Wingshack. And Josh has had a bit of a journey through the pandemic, like many others. But Josh, you can tell us all about that. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Today we've discussed a little bit. We will talk a bit about the pandemic, how it affected you. We're also going to talk how
Yep.
you navigate right now and have navigated. But for people that don't know what you're all about, can you give them a bit of your elevator pitch and your background and what you're up to with Wingshack and how the last couple of years has been before it all unraveled with the pandemic?
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of Wingshack. We opened our first store in 2018, January, so the start. And the story of Wingshack, it was an idea that I had for many years because I just loved chicken wings. Wingshack is a chicken wing concept. Basically, we sell different flavored chicken wings. So I just loved chicken wings, and when I was younger, and at the time, I just felt like there wasn't really a restaurant in London, especially that kind of specialized in chicken wings. So I just thought it would be a great idea to kind of bring that kind of concept into London with like where you'd come in and it would be a good vibe as well, and with music and stuff like that. So yeah, and then basically that's how it kind of started. And then we opened. An opportunity came up in Loughton for a store, which we took with my business partner, and we opened that. And then September 2019 we opened our first delivery kitchen in Bethnal Green with Food Stars. And then shortly after, in February 2020, we opened up another store, which is a pop-up in Clerkenwell on Rosebery Avenue, which would be for a year. And then obviously we opened it, and then a month after we hit Corona. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. We've got one store in Loughton, we've got a pop-up in Clerkenwell, and we've got a delivery kitchen in Bethnal Green.
Sounded like you didn't come directly from the food industry. You just had a passion about chicken wings. So what is your background before getting involved in restaurants? And I have to ask the question. There's actually two questions. Why getting involved with restaurants?
Quite right. I didn't come from a hospitality background at all. I've never worked in the kitchen. I couldn't even really cook, to be honest. Nothing. Yeah, I couldn't really do anything. But as you said, I just had the passion for chicken wings, and I've from an early age, I've been involved in like sports, football, and I used to run my own sports coaching company, and then I moved on to doing like fashion and so I've had my fingers in a few things really. Promoting, I used to do club promoting, so I've always been involved in like business and running my own projects and stuff like that, and then yeah, I've always just been really passionate about things, and I just had an idea. Um, I saw an opportunity, and that's how it kind of that's how I got into the food industry really, and like I said to someone before, it's like now that I am in it, I feel like this is my lane. So it's like I kind of yeah. So it's been a good journey so far.
You hit the pandemic, and you hit the pandemic as you just have opened a new unit. How did you observe all this at the beginning, and what have your journey been the last what are we, 13, 12, 13 weeks in this now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, as I said when I spoke to you before, when the pandemic first hit in Loughton, it didn't really affect us. It didn't affect us at all, even up because we stayed open up to the last minute, all three sites until basically Boris said restaurants have got to close. So even when he said don't go to no restaurants, we still stayed open. And to be honest, our Loughton store, it was not affected at all. It was still busy. Um, the numbers were still high, and I think that's mainly because it's our target audience for Wing Shack is quite young, uni, collegey kind of people, and do you know what I mean? So I feel like they didn't really listen to the advice that was taken, kind of thing, if that makes sense, about when Boris said don't go to any restaurants. So Loughton, we didn't really feel it, but Clerkenwell, um, we obviously did feel it, when Boris said about not to go to restaurants, because obviously that area there's a lot of offices and stuff like that. So as soon as the offices stopped going into work, it was dead. Like it was so quiet. We still had a few people coming in and out, but it really wasn't busy at all. And then Bethnal Green, it kind of dipped as well. Like the sales kind of dipped. I think because people was kind of unsure what was going on. They weren't really ordering deliveries, and people was panic buying in supermarkets and maybe cooking at home to start. And so yeah. So and then once Boris obviously did announce that all restaurants must close, like we closed straight away, and then we literally closed all our sites for about 5 weeks. Um, we didn't do any deliveries, no takeaways, and that was mainly because like staff reasons. We didn't really want to make our staff come into work, travel on the trains and stuff like that. So we just made a decision just to close all three sites, and yeah, and also supply chain as well. Our supply chain um, wasn't really up and running. It was obviously a lot of suppliers closed down as well and stuff like that. So yeah, so we closed down for 5 weeks, but basically kind of like hibernated. And then 3 weeks ago, we reopened our Loughton store for delivery and takeaway. So and then next week we're reopening Clerkenwell, and then the week after that we'll reopen Bethnal Green. So yeah.
So you back, you almost back in. Are you back in full operation, or you're only doing delivery or takeaway? What is it? How are you?
No, so it's literally just only delivery and takeaway, and we're only operating Thursday to Sunday. So we've reduced the days that we're operating to 4 days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We've reduced the trading hours as well, and yeah, and it's literally just delivery and takeaway. No customers can come in and make an order in the shop. It's all done through click and collect. So we're not taking no telephone orders. no orders over the counter. It's all done through click and collect, and obviously deliveries. We've got our own delivery platform with Vita Mojo, who also do our click and collect, and we do it with Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and Just Eat. So yeah, and it will be the same for Clerkenwell and Bethnal Green.
And how have that been compared to normal operation? There's been a lot of numbers thrown around that, operators are doing really well of it or they're doing really bad. How it's been for you guys? Has the world of delivery treated you guys as the pandemic have unraveled?
Yeah, I'll be honest. The first weekend when we opened, it was mayhem. Like it was so it was like overwhelmingly busy, and you know I think even obviously our team had 5 weeks off, so obviously they're going to be a little bit rusty. But I think like doing deliveries, because it's weird. Obviously now you have to kind of run it as a delivery kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously you're not serving customers and stuff like that. And I feel like it is very different to operating a restaurant. Do you know what I mean? So you do have to adapt. Dealing with delivery drivers coming at certain times, and just little all different problems that you wouldn't encounter obviously from running from serving people in a restaurant. But in terms of like revenue, it's been good. Like obviously it's not as much as what we'd normally make, but in terms of like profit margins and stuff like that, I definitely feel like it's definitely worth it. I wouldn't say obviously it's a model that it can last forever. But I feel like during a pandemic and during the circumstances that we're in, I feel like it has been worth it. Do you know what I mean? To just do delivery and takeaways. So I feel like it has been good, and for us, I think we're quite lucky because of the kind of concept that we are. We Because it's chicken wings and like burgers and fillets, and it is quite of a fast foody kind of concept anyway. So it does fit in well with deliveries and takeaways, and so in that sense, I feel like it's treated us well.
But I guess also just that you already had a bit of a head start on delivery, so you knew where you were going into. This was not like starting from scratch and don't know what you had to do to actually get online and do delivery and so on.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, as I said, we opened our delivery kitchen in September 2019. So I'm quite grateful for that because it did give me kind of a head start of, how the delivery stuff works, because like I said, it is very different to running a restaurant and serving customers. It's very different. So we already knew about how delivery works. We already set up with account managers, and we knew about prep time, how that works, and different menu tips, and just all these little things that you wouldn't actually think make a difference, but they do. We kind of knew about these things already. Packaging, yeah. So all those things we had a head start. I'd say so in that sense, I'm very very grateful for that. Because yeah, I do feel like obviously it did help us when we did reopen. Even though, like I said, the first weekend it was very very difficult dealing with the volume of orders and delivery drivers and these things. But yeah, all in all, it's yeah, quite lucky to have that head start.
Even though you had the head start, it sounded like you had a bit of learnings on the way. What is your main learnings you had as you evolve in the delivery market, and it was a bit different pressure, I can understand. So definitely a different delivery pressure than you're used to.
Yeah, I think definitely the main thing, like, is definitely the menu. Like when it comes to when obviously when you're just doing delivery and takeaway, you have to strip that menu down. Like you can't have the same menu that you'd have, especially if I don't know, like a lot of people, they might have small menus anyway, but if you do have quite a few things on your menu, when you're running a full service, when it comes to delivery and takeaway, you have to bring that menu down. You have to try and make it as small as possible. Just sell your best sellers, and that's it. Because when you're trying to do a full menu for delivery, it just won't work. Like I just don't see it working. So that's I think that's the biggest, because even when we opened on the weekend, the first weekend, I completely stripped the menu down, took away so many things, and even when we opened, the menu was still too big. But obviously we could only sort of see that once we was operating. Do you know what I mean? It was like, no, you know what, this we need to take this off, because it's just it takes up too much time, and it's just, yeah. So I feel like that's the biggest thing. You have to reduce your menu if you want to have a smooth delivery service.
And is there any other operational challenges you saw within, the team, the business as you've gone through this that you didn't expect and you were surprised and you really had to think out of the box?
Not really, because where it's only been delivery and take. Or actually, with the click and collect. Obviously, this is the first time we've used click and collect. So we had a few challenges with the click and collect platform. Like people they'd have a certain time, and then obviously the food might not be ready, and then customers are waiting, and then it's a build up of customers waiting outside at the front, and do you know what I mean? Obviously, it's meant to be social distancing, and so I feel like that's been a big challenge. Um, Still dealing with customers waiting. Um, yeah, I feel like that has been a big challenge, and obviously then you got the click and collect running, and then you got all the different delivery platforms running as well, and do you know what I mean? It is difficult, and that's why I say it's so important to just have a small menu, because it just makes things so much smoother, and you're just able to get the food out quicker, and so yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's that thing that and I guess there's hours where it really goes really mental. I could imagine around the peak hours, lunch and dinner time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we evenings. I mean, between like 6 and 9, it's just mad. Like it's just mental, and it's just all at once. Do you know what I mean? It's like when obviously when you're running a full service, like when customers can come in, obviously it can be busy, but there's only a certain amount of people that you can have in the restaurant. Do you know what I mean? There's only a amount of people that can sit down, so it's kind of capped. But when it's like delivery and takeaway, there's no restrictions. Like it can be as much people at once. So it's like, yeah, it's just it can be very hard to do with all the orders all at once, and especially when it hits that peak. So
So leaving the current situation and starting thinking a bit forward in the next coming a week, it looks like we're going to be opening up again, having a guests coming into our restaurants. We'll still have to do social distance, but again, it will bring in a new element of complexity and challenge for the operation model and therefore also for the business model. How have you and how are you maybe preparing for doing that?
yeah, it's obviously it is quite difficult, because obviously you're trying to find out what the government are kind of suggesting. What date can we actually open? I know obviously they've said the fourth of July now, but is it going to be a 2 meter rule? Is it going to be a 1 meter rule? So you're trying to and get as much information from the government, and then as well as trying to plan. But I mean, obviously we're taking the normal procedures, like with like the sneeze screens and stuff like that on the counters. And obviously we've already implemented the click and collect platform, which obviously is going to play a major role even when the doors do open. Obviously spacing at the tables and stuff like that. But I think it's important to kind of establish if it's going to be a 2 meter rule or 1 meter rule, because obviously that will have an impact on table space and stuff like this. Obviously for us, we don't take table bookings, so it's walk-ins only. So I'm kind of thinking at the moment, are we going to need to change the table bookings to start, just to reduce the number of people waiting for a table, outside the shop, inside the shop, because when it is busy, we do have big groups waiting for tables. So it might be a case of that we might need to switch to table bookings just to reduce that. Um, so yeah, so we are obviously making plans, and just each day I think we're just kind of just seeing what's going on, and just making changes each day, and planning, and just gearing up to obviously when we can reopen.
As I can hear you saying, you're talking about the click and collect, the digitalization of the the restaurant interaction with the customers is actually becoming quite a priority. I can hear, and it sounds like you believe that's going to be a key thing to be able to take orders digital. As people, everybody has different level of need for safety. In this situation, we're in the bottom of the Maslow hierarchy. We just need to feel safe when we go out. I guess that the click and collect can accommodate that. What do you think the change is going to be from ordering by the till or at the table compared to it was before? When you say click and collect.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I feel like the mobile ordering is definitely going to be a big thing. I feel like that it was already heading that way anyway. Especially like I said, I mentioned we do our technology with Vita Mojo, and I feel like it's going to be heading down that road where you can sit at the table and order your food through your phone, like click and collect pre-orders. Um, I did think kiosks were obviously um, big as well. I know a lot of big operators are now putting in kiosks and things like that, but that was before the pandemic. I don't know how they'll kind of work now, because I think because obviously it's going to involve a lot of people still touching the screens, and I don't know how people would feel about touching the screen after someone else has touched it. I don't know, maybe whether there'll be maybe like a wipe, you can wipe the screen, and so, but I definitely feel like the mobile experience is definitely going to play a big role, because it's more personal than a kiosk, if that makes sense. It's only you touching the phone, so you can choose what you want to eat. And so I do feel like the mobile ordering is going to be a big part. 'Cause even down to menus, like I don't think like physical menus are going to be a thing anymore in restaurants. So I don't think people are really going to feel safe about touching menus that have been touched by thousands of customers or stuff like that. So
Super, super interesting thought there because I haven't even thought about that yet. But you're right. Yeah, like anything you can touch, there will be no salt and pepper. There will be nothing
yeah, yeah,
on the table. What is quite interesting when you're talking about there, we had a Rob Kit that has done some things with mobile apps in the US, and apparently the mobile app has been much bigger than in the US than kiosk. Actually, kiosk was just before the pandemic really growing in the US, and over here it's been the kiosk thing, and probably been driven by McDonald's that has been quite big on kiosk and done some amazing results with that. Well, what do you think if you were guessing now, just putting a guess, how many out of 10 people would order on their mobile now as you open the doors? What do you think? In the, is it 7 out of 10? Is it 5 out of 10? How many?
I think maybe like 7 out of 10. I'd say I think it would be quite high. I think especially if I'm speaking about our customers. I mean, especially now, because our customers now, they're the last few weeks, that's the only way they've been able to order anyway through our click and collect. So I feel like we've kind of educated them now. Do you know what I mean? Our customers are educated with working a click and collect, how it works, how, do you know, like these things. And so I do feel like once we do open the doors, I do feel like, I do feel like a lot of people will use it, and especially even table ordering. I feel like when people are sitting down at the table, they'll prefer to order through their phone. And but at the same time, I feel like some people, they're a bit more old fashioned. You know what I mean? They do like to go up to the counter and ask questions, and ask about allergies, and they don't want this in their burger, they don't want this on their wings. And so I do feel like people will go to the counter as well.
Yeah, and I guess as trust rebuilds and people feel more safe, there will be, a mixture of thing. I think that we go out to engage as well and socialize.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. It's like not everyone really likes the automated kind of experience. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you go into a supermarket. Like I'll be honest, I don't really like using the self-service checkouts. I prefer to go to a normal checkout and use that. So I guess it just depends on the person really. Some, like you said, people go out to have that engagement, to have that experience. So whereas some people, they're more techie, they're more, they like to use technology, and I guess it just comes down to how the virus plays out as well. People, they'll start to feel more trust and feel more safe, and as time goes on, people start to feel more comfortable again. So
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's like it's again, we I think we are hungering for the human touch point as well, being so because we are deeply down in etiquette code to be social animals. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and how many, I definitely miss to have sometimes in my favorite coffee shop my coffee, for example, and that's a very good
yeah,
example.
yeah. Especially since we've been on lockdown for the last 3 months, and we've not socialized at all. So I feel like when we do come out of lockdown now, people are going to want to socialize at any time, at any point, like at given time. Do you know what I mean? So I do feel like, especially after what's happened, people are definitely going to want to socialize and engage, and so
And as we go into the new normal, the new paradigm, it's been called many things. There's talk about recession. There's a Brexit on top of that. There's many things. It's like the perfect. I have been talking about the perfect storm the last couple of years on the podcast, but I think this is this is like, I wouldn't even call it perfect. It's just like the most insane situation ever. It's like either you're gonna be, we talked a bit about before the podcast, that either the wave is gonna come and take you or you're gonna be surfing on it. But if you were thinking a bit about like an industry, and there was already an industry that was heading towards a lot of change, and it just came very quickly with the pandemic kicking in. Digitalization is one of them. But if you think about what do you have in your plans, and what is your thinking right now to be more robust as you go forward? What are you going to be putting in place in the coming months and years to make sure that you keep your businesses at the forefront of things?
yeah. Well, I think obviously with obviously having being forced to close, so literally there's no revenue coming in at all, and obviously I think that obviously forces you to obviously have to adapt and change your business model to look at other ways you can create revenue, not just through people, not just at your restaurant. So I do feel like the things like meal kits, like the DIY home kits and stuff like they're a big thing now. A lot of restaurants are doing that now. A lot of food brands and we're in the middle of creating our own. So we're definitely going to be going down that road. Also, selling our sauces and stuff like that. I feel like that's obviously another good thing. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of like direct to consumer stuff, like merchandise and just other ways to create revenue. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that's definitely something that we're going to implement into our business model. And then I feel like, yeah, just the same as usual, really, like digital marketing, like just making sure that your Instagram is always just looking the best, and Facebook ads, and just making sure your brand is out there, and so yeah, I feel like they're very important things.
And how do you think that the market is looking? If you looked in a crystal ball right now, I know it's a difficult question. Are looking in maybe 12 to 18 months. What is your like prediction that's gonna happen? Because it looks, I think a very good friend of mine, Peter Backman, said it looks dire, and I would say it looks very, very bad. Like I'm very, very nervous about how things is gonna evolve the next 3 months myself.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not as I'm a bit more optimistic than that. Sometimes I can be a bit too optimistic. and too positive. So, but me personally, I don't think. Obviously, I can only speak for for Wingshot. Obviously, each brand, each operator has their own different difficulties, but I don't think it will be dire. I think for some operators it will be, but I definitely feel like people will definitely be more open and definitely make an effort to shop with like independent brands now. Do you know what I mean? And instead of like big chain brands, I definitely think that. I think people obviously understand how, how hard it has been for independent, for all businesses, but definitely independent businesses, and people appreciate how much effort and goes into keeping these businesses running and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like people are definitely gonna start making more effort to shop independent. Um, and obviously, delivery obviously is going to be. I think it's just going to keep on growing and growing. And I can just see, like, I see it now already. There's a lot of brands. They're already kind of starting other concepts now, other food concepts on the side, kind of thing. So I definitely feel like that's definitely going to be where I see it going in like the next 18 months and stuff like that. I feel like people are going to just maximize their kitchens, um, with other brands. So I think, and that's something that I'm doing. So I definitely feel like that's definitely going to be something.
So that's interesting. Is that from we had Jazz on the podcast last week talking about dark kitchens, and he said like there's a reality of having a kitchen. The rent is the rent, and the staff is the staff. And if you really wanna optimize the dark kitchen model, you need 2 to 3 really strong brands that stands out and actually drive the matrix. Yeah.
1,000%. Like I found that out quickly. Like when I opened a delivery kitchen in Bethnal Green, it just started off as Wing Shack. Like I just thought, yeah, I just put one brand in there and that would be it. But like I quickly found, you need 2, 3 brands in there at least to make it work. Like obviously, unless obviously you're a massive, 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 massive household name, and then that's a different story. But I feel like for independent brands and startups, you definitely need 2, 3 brands in there, and that challenge even forced me to then develop other food brands, which I now have as well in the kitchen. So that I think it's 1,000% true. Like to make dark kitchens work, to make kitchens work, you need to have 2, 3 solid brands in there to maximize, the space and the staff and yeah. So I definitely agree with that, and I think that is the way forward. Like I said, I see so many brands now making other food brands. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely, I say it's like a new trend.
And it's also interesting when you're saying, and I actually agree with you that it looks it looks dire for the industry, but there's definitely an opportunity for smaller operators. I've been talking with a couple during the last 3 months, and it's very clear that some of them are actually using this as an opportunity to streamline their businesses, get ready to come back, and even some of them are picking up sites for peanuts already.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's going to be, obviously it's obviously sad because it's not good. You don't want no one to lose their business or anything like that. But there is obviously going to be a lot of casualties from this, and for others that can be a gain. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, there's going to be a lot of sites that are going to be up for peanuts. Do you know what I mean? So it is a good opportunity to expand and yeah. So yeah.
Is that in your plans to expand, or are you a bit observing?
No, definitely. As I said, I'm someone who's very optimistic. I dream very big, and it's definitely something that I'm looking at. I'm just we've got a few options at the minute that we're looking at. So hopefully we can get something going and yeah, expand. Yeah.
You, Josh, because you are a leader of business, that's a tough game. I know that it takes a lot of energy and focus. What have you done? Because again, like anyone I've talked with, this has been, the biggest shock they ever had to their system. How have you been dealing with it all, and how have you actually kept yourself? You talk about being positive and optimistic. How do you actually kept yourself up? How do you keep the energy up to do it all?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's as I said, yeah. I've tried to remain as positive as possible, but at the same time, obviously, i there is some bad days as well. I'd say, like, for myself, where I'm just used to being so busy, literally every day, problem solving, having to do this, having to do that, and just literally, yeah, it's just obviously where we only have a small team. It's like I'm doing the I could one day I could be working in the kitchen, one day, I'm going to a meeting, one day I'm going to the suppliers, one day I'm doing so many different things, and where I've been used to that, literally just on the go 24/7. It has been a shock to the system where I've not been able to do that for like the last few months, you know, and especially when we closed for like 5 weeks. I mean, there wasn't really that much work to do. All I could really do was just you know observe what's going on in the industry, in the news, and see what other operators are doing, and have conversations with other people and stuff like that. So obviously, in that sense, obviously I was working, but not to the intensity and to the level that I'm used to, and obviously it 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 was a little bit hard because you're at home, you're bored, or maybe you're just trying to put pressure on yourself, thinking that, oh, I need to work, I need to do this, I need to do that, and trying to find things to do. But I think it's very important to also focus on yourself, and do the basics as well. It's very important because, like I said, I don't think we're ever going to have this sort of time to actually focus on ourselves, um, like this, because obviously everyone's so used to just being in the fast pace, the working and whatever. So I think it's also very important to have some time to focus on yourself and do the basics. Look after your health, your eating, your training, meditation, and just, yeah, catching up with, well, obviously not going to see friends and family, but I mean just connecting with them and on through the phone and things like that, and reading, and yeah. So I feel like it's been very important to focus on yourself as well. So
What has been the most difficult question for yourself to answer in all this?
the most difficult, obviously, when is it going to end? Like, when is everything going to get back to normal? What I mean? There's so much talk about this new normal, and but it's just like, when are things are gonna when are things gonna be back to normal? I think that's the biggest question that I've especially been asking myself. It's like each month, each week that just going past, it's like you're kind of like what you said. When you're walking through Death Valley kind of thing, and you're just waiting for that wave to come. It's like it's like you're just waiting. You're constantly, when the daily updates come on at 5 o'clock, it's like you're waiting by the TV to see what's going on, and constantly checking your phone to see if there's any updates, anything being eased, and it's like you're literally waiting on dates. Do you know what I mean? Oh, on the 4th of July, restaurants are open. On the 15th of June, um, non-essential shops are open. It's like you're literally just waiting on dates constantly. So I feel like that's been probably the biggest question. When will things go back to normal? Because yeah, I feel like that's been the biggest question.
And what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge as a leader in the coming 12 to 18 months, from where you are, and what are you very aware about?
Well, I definitely think customers, they're going to be more looking at things like like food quality, and packaging, and like, what is your brand doing to kind of be eco-friendly and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like that's going to be, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but it's going to be a constant thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're definitely going to have to be on top of that now. Like, there's going to be no, yeah, you're going to have to keep on top of that in terms of like everything, packaging, to like hygiene, and obviously you need to be on top of that anyway. But I feel like that's going to be something that is definitely going to be something there's going to be no shortfall for.
Yeah, and I totally agree. There's going to be a massive, focusing on what you do, what you say and do as a business in food and not in business, and that comes down to safety, food safety, quality, all of it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what does your brand represent, kind of thing as well? I feel like that's going to be very big.
So, just always in the end of the podcast conversation here, I always ask about what are your three advice you will give leaders out there, and it could be in the connection of coming back in a better shape. What is your advice?
Well, I'd definitely say, taking advantage of the government funding is definitely one. I mean, in terms of like the grants and the bounce back loans and stuff like that, I feel like they're very good opportunities, and are the difference between some brands surviving or not. And so I feel like definitely taking advantage of those is definitely something like that everyone should be taking advantage of, because it will make a difference. Um, a point that I touched on previously, obviously, I feel like adjusting your menu, and I feel like is definitely a major thing as well, whether it's for delivery, takeaway, and even eating in, because realistically we're not going to be to full capacity for a while, even when we do reopen. So you know you're going to need to turn the tables over kind of quick. So I feel like having smaller menus obviously help with that. So I'll definitely suggest that. And another point that I touched on, I think maximizing your kitchen space is another thing, because if you have got the kitchen space there, I mean, if you can put in 2 or 3 other brands, then why not? Do you know what I mean? It's the delivery market is getting bigger and bigger, and I feel like it's another good way to generate some revenue, and also in terms of other revenue, as I said before, meal kits, packaging your own sauces and merchandise and recipe books, and I feel like those are key things that people should be focusing on, and when they reopen, and in terms of bouncing back.
I think some great advice and very hands on, and I think that's you're absolutely right. There is a focusing on fundamental business things and actually utilizing what you mentioned a couple of times, what you already have, and expand that with sources and so on. And this is the time to experiment as well, because there has never been a better time to experiment because there's no rules in a way. So
And that's what I mean. I feel like if there's a time where you are going to make changes, that's another point. I feel like this is a time for every business to streamline their business. If you're going to make changes, I don't know, to whatever it is going to be, this is the perfect time to do it, because customers are going to be more open and more understanding if you're going to make changes. And so I feel like this is a very important time to focus on streamlining your business. This is the perfect time. You're not going to be given more time ever than this to do it, or another time to do it more than this. So I feel like definitely you should be focusing on streamlining your business for when you bounce back. 100%.
thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories and learnings, and also how you see things gonna evolve, and especially your advice here in the end.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I will send you all the power and energy you're gonna need to keep things moving, and I'm sure that we're gonna touch base very soon. But stay well out there.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Great insights into how to optimize your menu and also getting ready for the new normal. Remember to look at those menus before you open the doors. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please give us a like, share it with people you think would benefit from it, rate it, and let us know what you think. Big thanks to Vitamojo for making this possible. If you would like to know more about Vitamojo, you'll find them on software.vitamojo.com or contact them directly at nickliedl@vitamojo.com. Thanks for listening.